beautiful soul. Welcome back. This is the second of a series of 3 episodes talking about the transition from doing to being, which we all will experience at some point in our lives. This episode will focus on meeting the not self, who and what shows up when we start making this transition, which again, we all will do at some point. And the more examples I think that we have, the easier it is. I didn't have any examples really, and so I'm really hoping that this series is supportive for you. I'm Jamie Ehrenberg with Idlewild Retreats, and this is my journey of following my intuition and becoming my truest self. So the not self is almost the opposite of the truest self. The truest self is who we are at our core. It's who our soul is. It is this divinity within us, this gifted, special energy that we are. We have so many ways that we walk through the world and are born into the world that cover that all up. I do believe that this is our experience in this lifetime is coming back closer and closer to our truest selves. In this transition from doing to being, we are suddenly given the space, and everything we've been avoiding or just taking on, or things that have been woven into us and almost hidden, suddenly come to the surface or begin to come to the surface. My experience this last year, as I transitioned from being in my career of 25 years into being an entrepreneur, really revealed so much of this. It is a process where the more we're trying to create, but also just be. I talked a lot about the flowing in the last episode and allowing things to flow to us. There is this liminal space, like we are not quite where we're going yet, and so who are we? And as we're in that uncomfortable space, transformation I love, and it's uncomfortable. It starts revealing to us all these things that, are shadows. There are things that we inherited from our ancestors. They are conditioning from society about the way we think that things should look or work. I can give you a couple of examples of what that's looked like for me. The not self is almost like a conglomerate of all of this. This is starting to strip away what's not true for us so that we can be more and more true. When I was working on this transition this year, I have my North Node in Libra. So for any of you that also have this, hello, which means that our South Nodes are in Aries, which means that we're used to being independent and doing it all ourselves, that we're fighters, that we don't need the community. And this lifetime, the intention is that we're walking towards that North Node part of us where we are embracing, in this case, the Libra aspects, which is all about being supported and resourced by others in partnership and being able to be in that close community where it's, I like to say, a devotion in that relationship. For me, as I made this transition, the reality is in starting any new business, it's not like, for most people, we do not have the experience that we suddenly have a massive income stream coming in. There's a lot of experimentation to do. There is a lot of, what do people actually want from me that I can offer? There's so many things going on while we're really building this business. I had to allow myself, in this case, to be held and to be able to be so supported by my husband in every way, financially, love, emotion, all these things that he was always willing to give me, and I resisted. I could hear my mom in the background saying, always make sure you can take care of yourself. Don't ever rely on a man. And once I heard that again, I quite literally let it go when I was in the ocean. I was like, oh, that doesn't serve me anymore. But it was conditioning that I had grown up hearing, and hearing again and again and again. We don't even realize how many of those stories, how many of those narratives are woven into our psyche. And sometimes we literally have to hear someone else say them. In that case, I was on a retreat with a beautiful woman who was talking about her own experience with that. And I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. I forgot about the fact that I heard that. Don't rely on a man. You can do it yourself. Take care of yourself. It was so ingrained in me, and I forgot about that. I'm letting that go. This process from doing to being, this meeting our shadows, this conditioning, these ancestral things that we're carrying with us, some of it can be as gentle as that. You all know that I've done a lot of embodiment work, so that means I've done a lot of nervous system work. I believe nervous system work is massively important for this too. When we start meeting all of our shadows, maybe not all of them, when we start meeting this conditioning, this epigenetics, we have to be able to see it, have that unconscious thing become conscious, then meet it and just be with it and not necessarily move it along right away. And then when it's time to release it, to be able to release it in whatever way, and probably in all the ways that we need to. If you've watched some of my other videos, or if you've joined me for Attune already, you'll know that we have multiple layers to our bodies. We have our energy body, we have our mental body, our physical body, our emotional, and our spiritual bodies. We are so many layers, and so sometimes those stories are lodged in a specific layer, and sometimes they're in multiple layers, and so you'll have to figure that out along the way, which I think is why we have these conversations of, wow, I thought I was done healing that. And what I feel like is that healing is happening on every layer, and we have to give ourselves the time and the space to be able to do that. And it's not always the time and the space to do that all at the same time. So just want to be easeful and supportive on that. But to be able to recognize those narratives or that conditioning, I have to work hard. I have to work hard. I have to work hard. Most of us believe we have to work hard to be worthy, to be safe, to be valuable. That's what we've both been told, and that is what our society has shown us, that simply being you isn't enough. That is this doing to being transition of being okay with ourselves, the true self that we really are inside. And it's a journey for all of us to make this transition. And when we see those shadows and we start really noticing which of those stories is coming up, that's when we need to meet them, be with them, see them, and then eventually release them. Those are several examples, both of me and general, of ways that these shadow parts of this conditioning shows up. Money, scarcity, so many things that are just woven into our bodies that aren't true. But we have to know if there's a story we've been telling ourselves or we've been told, and just being able to recognize it and see it starts alchemizing it. It might not heal it right away, but it starts alchemizing and changing that because we're bringing it to the surface and making it seen. The shadow, when I say the shadow, that means something that hasn't been seen before. It's something that's been lurking under the surface that is able to come to the surface and be seen, and isn't something that we actually want to carry with us. The other thing I will say about this is what we start saying about the not self is family stories, ancestral stories, and epigenetics lie in here too. Oftentimes we will feel or hear our family members, alive or deceased, and issues that they experienced, and it could even be pretty far back. And I'll give an example for me of the shadow and epigenetic, I believe, that I was experiencing over the last year was the fear of being seen. And that fear is a protective fear. It is the body or ancestors not wanting someone to be alienated, isolated, quite literally thrown out of the tribe or burned at the stake, depending on what you're talking about, because they're revealing who they really are and showing their gifts and this difference, which we all are nothing but differences. There's less similarities than there are differences, and yet we're all one, right? So in reality, there's a lot of similarities too. But the not being seen as different or weird or strange helps to keep the family safe. It helps to keep you safe. It helps to keep you in the tribe. So being seen is a way of really putting out there who you are, and that could have a big impact on your safety, security, worth, all of the things that I already covered. That can be ancestral. That wasn't even a verbal thing that you heard, but it's something like buried in your bones from previous generations. So when we find these shadows, these stories, this conditioning, these epigenetic experiences, so those are the things we inherit that are traumas that our ancestors experience. So our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, it can go pretty far back if these things weren't healed. When we feel those, that is when we need to really bring in this nervous system work. The nervous system work and being able to find your center, I believe, are so key for this transition. When we are working with our bodies, with embodiment, with somatics, with our nervous systems, what we're trying to do is expand our capacity to hold ourselves in the higher state of our experience, in peace, in joy, calm, relaxed. We're trying to give ourselves the tools and experiences to be in that state for longer and be able to return to it more often. It takes practice to get there. We can all do it. My program Attune, which will open again in January, depending on when you're listening to this, is a way of being held in a group setting so that we're both learning from each other, but also experiencing things together and getting to practice very regularly so that we can speed up the expansion of our ventral vagal part of our nervous system. This is really, really key in order for us to be able to really just be with and work with these not parts of ourselves, these not self parts of ourselves that keep coming up. They're going to keep coming up, and yours may or may not be the same as mine have been, or my friends have been that have gone through this. I will also say that, I mentioned it already, but being able to find your center during all of this is really important. Knowing where in your body you can find your center on any given day, because that really might change, and how to operate from that is really going to keep you from throwing wrenches into your own process. I shared in the last episode that from a not centered place was wanting to structure the business so I could be successful and I could be safe and I could be earning money because I didn't want to rely on my husband and all those things I've mentioned already. I created that retreat structure, which ultimately was not what I was supposed to be doing at that time. It was not what the collective or my community was ready for at that time. But if you're able to be in your center, you're going to know that a lot better. You're going to know, yes, this is for me. No, that's not for me. Or let me slow down here. What am I hurrying for? If I would have just been slowed down and been more present when I was going through this retreat creation structure in my business, I wouldn't have wasted all that time and energy, and I'd probably be somewhere else. So it's really interesting to be able to, in retrospect, of course, say that, but can you find your center? Do you know when it's time to actually do something? Are you comfortable just being with yourself and letting all of these things bubble up, including the joy and the awe and the wonder that lead you to want to do something different? Do you know? Can you sit there and be with it? Or do you need to keep busy because you're not willing to let what wants to come to the surface come? And that wants to be released so that you can be more of your true self. I've said it so many times on this channel, I am such a different person than I was a year ago when I started this full-time journey of working for myself. And it is so beautiful where I am now. And it could have been more easy. The next episode, we're going to get more into what this feels like, how to surrender more, be in flow more, and experience that, and what it looked like for me so that you can have some examples. I'm sending you a lot of love, and I would love to hear if you are in any of these transitions right now. What are they, if you're willing to name them, and what kind of supports are you using so that other people in the community can hear them too. I can't wait to see you in the next episode.